Hi, my name is Dennis Liu. I'm a product manager here at GCP. In particular, I'm on the GPU team. I own a little VM called A4 with the B200 GPUs. So when I show you the slides and I prefer A4, it's not necessarily technical reasons. It's my baby. Two sections on the slides. One is like sort of the setup stuff. We'll talk about the management layer for a little bit, and then we're going to talk about the hardware. That's what my team does. Like I said, that's where we get to the part of this particular A4. You've probably seen this slide like 6 times today, but we do all of these things literally across the entire stack of AI stuff. All right. Oh, so it's just slow, I think. Okay, I got to click. You've probably heard about AI hypercomputer. That goes from all the way up the top, includes our consumption models, very flexible, all the different kinds to meet all different kinds of needs and price points, as they always say, all the way down to the bottom where we talk about purpose-built hardware, which again is me. So I'll be talking mostly about focusing on that area. In the middle, we have our entire software stack. We're experts at that too. I don't know how much users are GKE, non-GKE users, but we're really good at all that stuff. Like I said, if you have any questions about it, you stop me and ask a question. This slide did not paste over very well. At the top, it's supposed to say cluster director. Sorry, it's in white on a white background. So cluster director, I think you had a session about that early in the morning. It's a good time for us to reinforce it because we literally built it for the GPU ML use case. Cluster director is about managing your fleet of GPUs all together at once as a cluster. It gives you some visibility, makes it easier to manage your workloads, insight into your performance and your locations, and all the good things. It's new, so I'm sure there are shortcomings. So as you read about cluster director, as you hear about cluster director and things that people are using it for, we would love to get feedback on that, right? My colleague actually works on it, and he's always looking for feedback. We're always looking for feedback on everything, right? We are, in the middle, you can see we highlight the different orchestrators. We are trying to be agnostic and bring your own kind of things wherever we can. So make sure that we get feedback about that too.
It does.
Yep.
What APIs are available? An orchestrator.
I'm not an expert in that area, so we will have to talk to somebody else afterwards. I think in general, right, the orchestrator needs to know things like where my hosts are, so I know to place the workloads on the right VM so that they're talking to each other. Those APIs are available. You don't even need an orchestrator for that. Like, that's just a baseline API that we expose, and you could do it like through command line if you wanted to, but nobody would. So all of the things that you would expect to need that are available through GKE or available through Slurm are also available through like the underlying CLI or API, and then you could script whatever you want on top of it too.
Thanks.
In terms of the naming you mentioned, so if we stop, we've stopped now the conversation. We're at the director level. We're then moving into the kind of the managers level. Then we get to the orchestrator levels, and then above that, or below that, sorry, the foundations levels. Above the director level, is that like something central, or what would be that theme above director?
Okay, I'm gonna crack a little joke. Okay, we are being recorded, so this is just a joke, people. That has been discussed internally a lot about our positioning regarding these different layers and using these different words that sort of give people the impression that something else is going to happen or is coming and is going to have like general name or something like on top of that. We don't have anything at that level, let's say right now. Cluster director is the highest level object that we're trying to like build out. Conceptually, and from like these slides, you'll see AI hypercomputer, right? AI hypercomputer encompasses everything.
Mm-hmm.
We are hoping that you view cluster director as like the highest level thing you need to manage like an AI workload.
Thank you.
Cool. So this is the part where we get to the actual hardware. So these three are almost available in the sense that the third one says it's in preview. Again, my baby's in the middle. It's A4. So going left to right, just in case you haven't already covered this, I got to do it. A3 Ultra with H200s, A4 with B200s, and A4X with the GB200 systems, right? If anybody remembers or has used our H100 systems called A3 High and A3 Mega, those systems were built on something we called GPU Direct TCPX Fast Track. I think that is our official name. We are now moving to Rocky on CX7 for all 3 of these systems. That should make it slightly easier to bring up your OSs, bring up your systems, bring up your workloads. Performance should be slightly better. We've also doubled the bandwidth for GPU to GPU communication, so we're at 3.2 instead of the old 1.6, which really doesn't divide because at the bottom of the A4X one, you see it says 28.8. What does that mean? It really means 400 gigabits per GPU. Any questions about these 3 systems? Because you might not be surprised, but there's 2 more coming up on the right-hand side that we're going to talk about in a second. 2, 1. Sounds good. So the 2 systems that are coming soon, sometime in 2025, are, we didn't write the names on them, so I'm not going to say what those names are, but the NVIDIA RTX Pro 6000, which previously, before NVIDIA announced that name, would have been called something like L40S.Next, for example. It is the new mid-range card. I believe the specs have been announced about the memory. Okay, cool. I'm just really afraid if it's not in the slide, I don't want to accidentally say it. That one is coming. It's actually very popular. We've already gotten a lot of interest from like inference users, global users, because this GPU is going to be able to go into many different places that our other ones weren't necessarily able to. And then also for graphics users, right? Like graphics is going to be really awesome on this. You can't do that on any of the 100 series, right? So the last one on the right, again, there's no name attached to this, so I'm not going to use that name, but it is the GB300 system, which is basically just the GB200, more memory, more networking, everything's faster, takes up more power. You can't even imagine. You can see that the 28.8 at the bottom of A4X becomes 57.6, so double, and it uses the CX8s. Any questions about any of these systems that I can answer? So just to cover very briefly, we already have A4s available today. I just found out that we can do spot VMs. So if anybody is interested in trying them out, you can actually go self-serve, quota increase, and then create a spot VM all on your own. No need to interact with anybody anymore.
Dennis, I actually do have a question for Jack Paul or Paradigm Technica. Can you maybe give us like a cheat sheet about the level of performance differences between the 2, like A4 is 2x or A3 or something like that?
That is a great question. I'm going to jump a few slides ahead so that we can talk about it. How's that? So you asked about performance. These are performance projections. I must say projections because all of the data that backs all of this is not real world testing. It is projections. I will make a few more comments and addendums to this slide that I think are safe to say. But I will also say we also have a lot of data under NDA that like we do share with customers, and I'm not supposed to talk about that right now. But if it gets to that situation, we do have a lot more numbers for that. Okay. So the basic approximation I use is that A3 Ultra slightly better. Very very low double digits, like 10% better. A4 is 2x better compared to H100s. In our real world testing, that is, if I say something, you're not going to hold me to it, I hope, because I'm not promising anything. Sometimes it is better than 2x. How much better and on which situations, it's very specific. Sometimes it's better than 2x. Most of the time, it is 2x. I should also say that the headline here is very specific. It says, projections for LLM training. Okay, so if you are looking at non-LLM use cases, I care very much about that use case, but it is harder to get performance improvements of that scale necessarily on these new GPUs because all of the research and the work and the effort and the transistors and everything is going towards improving LLM training and inference, right? On the right-hand side is what you'll see the difference between, say, the A4 with the B200s and the A4X with the GB200s. You'll notice that the top right of the right graph says MOE training speed up, right? So when you get to these mixture of experts models, large ones especially, you're going to get a much faster speed up on the GB200 system, which one presumes will extend to GB300, but we don't have performance projections for that. That's why it's not on the graph. So my very biased personal opinion is that for most people, what you're going to end up using is A4 with the B200s. That's where you'll get your most bang for the buck. You can see on the left-hand graph, that's LLM training, dense LLM training. There's a couple here notes here at the bottom. I'm going to read out loud because you might not be able to see them. But the left-hand side is 4K GPU scale. The right graph is 32K GPU scale. Right? So yes, there are customers using 32K GPUs all at once in a single training job. That's a very small number.
And you got the gold for the Goldilocks, right?
Yes, that is maybe a coincidence. I don't know. And the price, right? If you go on our website and looked at the prices between A3 Mega, A3 Ultra, and A4, you're going to see that the price for A4 is not double the A3 Mega. It is not double the A3 Ultra price, for example. I'm not going to say what it is. You can see it on the website. I don't remember off the top of my head. So you're going to see a lot of performance price perf improvement. We don't have the graph for inference. Nobody asked, but I'm going to talk about it. So the graph for the inference is very similar. So actually, with smaller LLMs, you're not going to get much of a speed up going from A4 to A4X, because if you've got 70 billion parameters, that's going to fit in the GPUs. You don't really need the NVL72 of the GB200 system.
Dennis, this is okay to publish, right? I see next on the bottom.
Yes.
What's going on?
I didn't get a chance to ask my boss, but I took it from his slide deck. So the answer should be yes.
Okay, thank you.
Slides are public, so he knows.
I mean, they're literally being broadcast on the internet.
They are now. They are now. Yeah, really. Yeah.
You didn't know that, did you?
Too late.
You're live. You're live on the internet.
Oh my God.
If it's from next, the next slide.
Yeah. Thank you. I haven't presented at Next before.
Everything so far has been the toothpaste out of the tube. And I don't know if there's been any roadmap discussion so far. So we talked about what's above. Now, what would be to the right in your mind?
Okay, so I'm very used to presenting to customers under NDAs. We are not under NDAs here. So there is a line, and I don't know exactly where the line is supposed to be drawn. What I can tell you is just that on the previous slide where we showed the all the systems in a line, GB300 is on there. Okay, and what that means specifically is we are going to ship something with a GB300 in it. What it's going to look like, what size, performance. So there's this very interesting thing that the first performance numbers that we're going to get are obviously from our partner provider that gives us the GPUs. We don't have them in hand. We don't even have the final specs. We do try to do our own internal projections, but often it comes from them. So I would probably just be regurgitating whatever they had published on the internet already. So. Any other questions? Okay, we might actually get to the backup slides just if you guys don't keep asking questions. The backup slides are super boring, so. Okay, so.
So at this Keith Townsend Futurum Group, Jensen had this provocative statement at GTC that said all of these those H200s you showed earlier, you won't be able to give them away. So who's using them?
I have a teammate who's the PM on the hoppers, and he had kind of a sad day. Especially the H200 PM, because those, we're trying to, we have them. Let's put it that way. So actually, even after that statement, so that's been a month or so, right? We had with GTC mid-March, and then we had Next. Demand has increased, if anything, even on the Hopper generation. There are basically two reasons for that. And now we're getting towards, what I say is not gospel, right? What I say is often also my only informed opinion. B200, we have it available. We have it available at a certain scale, right? I can't tell you what that is, but it is not millions of GPUs in a single cluster, okay? Hoppers, on the other hand, we have a much larger scale. You can get more of them sooner in the places you want, larger clusters right now. And there are certain customers and companies and users that value that over waiting X number of months. The other way to say that is we are the only, okay, knock on wood. I haven't read the news today. Maybe we're still the only large cloud provider that has B200s in production, GA-wise. So even if you were waiting for that, like who knows how long you'd have to wait, right? Now on the GB200 side, it's also an interesting situation where there have been providers that have announced that they were going GA. We announced a limited preview, I think. Hope I didn't say that wrong. But again, availability of GB200s, limited. It's going to take X months, X period of time before it becomes available. And your business can't wait, basically, right? So we have a lot of people using Hopper. We have a lot of people using H100s. I mean, this is not to say too much. We have a lot of people using previous generations, even older generations, because price perf is there. And not everybody is trying to run trillion parameter LLM models, right? If you are running a smaller model, recommendation model, image generation model, and you get your hands on an H100 or an A100 or even a L4, right? You might be able to get better price perf, and you can get that today.
Yeah,
That's
so
not
we saw this even a few months ago when some of the more weird CEOs announced that they were building a new AI data center, and they built them with H100s, and everyone's scratching their head like, why are you building it with H100s? And I think we're seeing it from a practical availability demand and what's useful from like what's available. If you, sure, I can eke out way more performance out of a B200 or a GB200, but if they're available in one region or one area and my data is somewhere else, well.
So that's definitely a factor. We get that directly from customers also. Another thing to think about is a recent overseas company that, it's not recent anymore, announced a very well-performing model that they managed to train on a smaller number of GPUs, and they did it by optimizing more, right? And so if your code is severely optimized for Hopper, even H100s, not H200s, you might be able to get better perf per dollar than moving to H200s, because you have to do all this reinvestment into redoing everything in the stack, right? Even if you move from one company's H100s to another company's H100s, data center network performance is different. The software stack is different. It's really interesting and simultaneously annoying to me as a PM. No offense. I wish everybody's workloads just worked the same.
So optimization, you mean quantization, right?
No, I mean lots of different things, right? So like in that one particular case, you might manually write CUDA kernels that are going to do very specific calculations at a very low level, and you might be able to speed those up like 2x. And if you could speed that up by 2x, wow, you've just got a huge win, right? Quantization is definitely a huge factor, and FP4 is supported on the Blackwell generation, but we don't have a lot of research or feedback from customers on that one yet. Like, it's like, yes, I want to do it. No, I'm not sure whether it's gonna be good enough.
Am I right in thinking though that like from a Guy Currier Futurum group, I would think to the point of Keith's question, there's maybe three main factors here. One is I think what you referred to, which is sometimes it's called availability. I think of it as accessibility. Is it in the right region with the right proximity to your data, or can you get your data there, or whatever it is? So that's one factor. A second factor is, what performance, do you need? How fast you need to train? What size of model? What have you? That can dictate, a B200 out of the gate. But then the third one is your pricing, Google Cloud's pricing. You just said earlier that you're getting, I'm paraphrasing, You're getting 2x the performance, but it's not 2x the cost. So where's that coming from? Because it seems to me the H100s that you have, like, you're not going to burn them. So, but I don't know that, you might price them to sell. That could make a big difference in terms of where folks are going. And I'm not asking you to reveal where the prices come from unless you feel like it on this non-NDA broadcast.
I will reveal my prices by telling you the ones on the website are the ones that I would talk about. But more realistically,
but I mean, what I'm saying is that's the third leg of that stool, and it's a really important one because people are trying to do practical things with the models that they're training themselves, and those practical things are not always have it in a month.
So
they'll wait for something useful and productive that they spend less on, So yeah, so your it's like an artificial injection into the system.
So whenever something new comes in, the law of free market economics says that the old thing that is slightly worse will get cheaper. Just, it's more of a question of when, right? And it could be a while, right? So we're talking about B200s are not large scale, not available everywhere. GB200s, not large scale, not available everywhere. So there may not, yes or no, I cannot confirm. There may or may not be a price pressure on the Hopper side yet, right? Yes, they might get cheaper eventually, but the reality is there are customers when they sign a long-term contract, right? You sign it for X number of years, whatever it is. 1 year, 3 years is what we offer in standard. You signed it at that time and you were like happy with that decision, right? And sometimes for a business, if you made a decision and you're happy and you continue to be happy with it, your migration costs to do anything else, literally anything else, right? Move to a different GPU, move to a different GPU generation, move to a different cloud, move to whatever, the risks it means for your business is just not worth it, right? So even if you could save 5% on like your inference costs by moving from H200s on Google Cloud to H100s on another provider, 5% is not worth throwing your business away, right? Like if you have like a downtime, if you have a whatever, if transition costs, all of that factors in. And obviously I can't speak for every customer, right? But every customer is always balancing those things out as well. They don't always make the right choice either, right? Like they're trying their best to make a good choice on what they use.
I just think there's a lot of gravity. It's not just data. There's a lot of gravity towards something you've invested some in, and there's a lot of sort of market pressure and messaging pressure, bigger models, faster, like all this performance, and it sounds all really cool and everything. But if you're making good business decisions out of it, it's like asking for a generic instead of a brand name.
Yeah. So we launched A4. It went GA in mid-March, for example, right? We had lots of customers coming on board, testing out their stuff, right? It's like, I want to do a 1 week POC. I want to do a 2 week POC. I want to do a one month POC with like 8 nodes, right?
Feed me. Go on. This is good. Go.
Okay. This should not be too bad. But what happened was, we did have customers come and say, I did not see the performance improvement to justify moving over, right? Or at least not yet. Right, and whether that's
they'll get there. They'll get there. They want to see how it's gonna. They want to take it for a spin.
Right. Yeah. So they might have seen some percentage, right? And the price perf is actually the same right now. So they don't want to like, okay, well, if it was going to be a 20% gain immediately with no work, right? They would have taken it. But if it's going to take them some work to extract that value out, it's like, we'll wait, right? We'll wait a little bit. And even those customers, they might look at that situation and say, that's fine. Right? Like, it's not like they were expecting something and then didn't get out of it. They were like, I'm going to test out this new thing, right? This is not the right time for me to move over. My existing solution works great, right? Every customer is going to be in a slightly different situation. Some are going to be, say, like we had another customer tweet about like how great experience they were having on the B200s, how it helped them jump to the leaderboards of their particular metric. And so that one was like gung-ho, right? They want to get on top of it as soon as possible. But, it's customers run the gamut.
So again, you said you were having the internal debate about what to name above the director level, and I feel like Guy, Amberly, probably at different points in time brought this like, when is switching cost? When is that juice worth the squeeze? And so there seems like there has to be some type of a Google Cloud Advisory thing at the top of it, and then I think that's probably a human right now. But you do probably have these scenarios. Is it switching costs that are is that an internal debate here, or is it that's more of a customer and customer success and account management and sales and pre-sales and post-sales? Where is that conversation around switching costs?
Great. So underlying like hardware costs and time to switch over, that's easy calculation. Like we would have calculators internally. Our field folks would be able to like punch that in and get you a good number. The problem comes to like we don't know, and we can't know every customer's switching costs on the software stack,
Right.
on moving your data from one data center to another, unless you're telling us it's however many bytes you have. So we can't really just go directly to a customer and say, switch here and it's going to save you X and it cost you Y and net win or whatever, right? The same way that we can't go to any customer and say, make the switch to JAX over from PyTorch because it'll sort of get you these value and this value and it doesn't cost you that much. Some customers are like, yes. Right? I want to be forward-looking. I want to be, on the most cutting edge. I want to be agnostic to hardware. I'm going to go do that change. But a lot of them are just going to say, as he said, it's like, what I have works.
And so the follow-up question is, does that domain of knowledge, is that residing within Google, or does Google want to see the partner ecosystem with competencies helping that client plus Google conversation move in the correct direction? Or is it Google's position that's really a Google Cloud discussion with that particular customer? A partner is not required or included in that conversation.
You want to get me in trouble, don't you? What I would say is, well, we love our partners, right? Like we can't scale out that far. We just don't have that many people. We don't have the same expertise that partners do. Yeah. So in the situations where the partners have either the knowledge or the skills or whatever, and can make our lives easier and the customers' lives easier, why would we want to take that on, right? Like why would we want to interrupt that and get in the way? That's not a promise, but we have 2 minutes left. So we covered most of the slides that I really wanted to do. I've been just showing this one because, again, my baby, so my favorite. 4x bandwidth, let's see, non-blocking cluster. Oh, yeah, we are trying to aim for large scale. So in our A3 high and A3 mega systems, we basically had like, I think it's 700 or something GPUs that are in a single non-blocking cluster. We're trying to get to 10K. So, we can match the scale of a lot of our competitors. Again, this says 2x faster training on an LLM. And if you go to some of our blogs and some of our other things, it might have a number that's slightly higher than 2x. It's not going to be that much. It's not going to like say 5x or anything like that, but a little higher than 2x for sure.
The follow-on question to one that Jack asked earlier. I'm Andy Banta. So in unnamed version 1 and unnamed version 2, what have you as a product manager asked for in terms of performance improvements there?
Oh, wow.
I mean, and I realize that you can't answer that question correctly, but you can answer it, but ballpark, what order of magnitude?
There's an optimal place that you're trying to chase. And most of the time that's the partner's specs, right? The partner publishes some specs and they publish some, here is a roofline model for performance of this item against model training, against inference, against whatever. And that's usually what we're trying to chase. Under NDA circumstances, those numbers could be talked about a little more, and how close we are to them, for example. That's the best I could give you right now, though.
Okay, and another question that I have to ask, even though you only have 5 seconds left, is what is the power consumption differences between the various different models?
It's per GPU, it's like low single-digit percentages difference between A4 and A4X, so it's not much. If you look at the NVIDIA specs for the GPUs, that's probably tell you the power consumption difference.
Okay.